Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on the MS in Analytics program at Bowling Green State University and our partners with INSOFE there in India. I want to introduce our panelists to you this morning. I am Keith Ramsdell, and I'm Director of Graduate Enrollment at Bowling Green State University. And with me, I have Dr. Arthur Ye. Arthur, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Great. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Ye. And we also have Dr. Murthy with INSOFE. Dr. Murthy, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Great. Thank you both so much for joining us today. And all of you who are considering the possibility of enrolling both with hopefully INSOFE and Bowling Green State University, we're very excited about this partnership that we started about a year ago. And you'll be hearing from everyone on the panel about this relationship, this partnership that we've developed over the next few minutes. To get us started, one of the things that I want to do first is kind of give you a sense of the way that the webinar will proceed. And so with that, we will be keeping all of the participants muted. However, if you look to the control panel to the right, you can ask questions at any time by typing them directly into the questions box, and we would encourage you to do so. I have a colleague with me here at Bowling Green State University who will be answering specific questions, individual questions throughout the webinar, and then holding some of them to the end, those that might pertain to everyone on the webinar. So individual questions will be addressed throughout. However, at the end of the webinar, we will take any additional questions that perhaps we have not addressed at that point in time. Our agenda for today's webinar includes kind of an overview of Bowling Green State University, program highlights of the MSA program, our career services program, the faculty that we have here on our campus, as well as the MSA curriculum. And then I will bring Dr. Murthy back on the line to talk about the INSOFE partnership and their certificate program. He will also talk about tuition and fees, both their program and our program, as well as a tuition scholarship that we have available to those who complete the INSOFE program and then come to Bowling Green. And then I will continue and kind of wrap up the webinar talking about our admission requirements here at Bowling Green State University. So let me tell you just a little bit about Bowling Green State University. We are a public university or a state university founded in 1910, so we're over 100 years old. We're located just 30 minutes south of Toledo, Ohio. We are very close and easy access by freeway and other forms of transportation to Toledo, and many of our Indian students on campus find that attractive because they have access to more of the Indian culture. There are lots of folks who both live in Bowling Green State University and here in the city, as well as Toledo. There's Indian grocery stores and restaurants and so forth, and so that's very easy access. Our campus comprises over 1,300 acres and 119 buildings, and we have over 19,000 students total from 50 states and 70 countries. It's a very diverse population. It's an exciting place to be, lots of energy, and it's a great place to study and to learn. And of course, we also have nearly 2,500 graduate students across 75 programs. The MSA program, the analytics program, is one of our newest programs, and we expect that the population in that particular program will continue to grow over the next 2 to 3 years as well. To give you a sense of where we're located geographically within the United States, I've put a map up there where you can see how close we are to Cleveland. Detroit is just about an hour, slightly more than an hour to our north. Columbus, Ohio, which is the capital of Ohio, is just a couple hours to our south. And then, of course, you can see our proximity to Chicago. Chicago is west of Bowling Green, probably about 4 hours drive to Chicago. And then you can see many of the larger cities in the U.S. that you may be familiar with to the east, and they are within a day's drive as well. So easy access to all of those locations. So why would someone want to pursue a degree in analytics? Some of you, maybe you're already considering that, you've already decided, in fact, maybe you're already working in the analytics field, or perhaps you have a degree in another area, perhaps computer science, engineering, something along those lines, and you've decided that maybe analytics is something that you want to at least consider as a career or perhaps a career change. And so for that, I'm going to bring Dr. Ye back on the line, and he's going to walk us through kind of what an analytics degree is all about. Dr. Ye?
All right. Okay, go to next slide. So basically, the program, we designed a program a couple of years ago, and it was really designed around 3 different areas of analytics: the prescriptive, predictive, and descriptive statistics. So basically, the whole idea of analytics is really to learn how to analyze, make sense, and use data as predictive tool to make informed decisions. And if you could go to the slide, next slide, Keith. So by one estimate, there's going to be a shortage of around 140, 190,000 jobs in the U.S. These are basically jobs for those with analytical skills by 2018. And so when we designed this program, the first such program actually started out in the U.S. only in recent years in 2008 at North Carolina State. So over the last couple of years, several such programs have been started at different universities throughout the country. And so we sort of started this program in 2014, and I believe we probably, I mean, the whole U.S. probably has about close to maybe 24 to 30 such programs. And so if you look at, hold on a second, next. So if you look at some of the learning outcomes that we sort of look at when we design the program. So again, I talked about those 3 areas: the descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive analytics. So therefore, all the courses are really designed around those areas. And so I think the core of the program is to give students thorough understanding of those 3 areas pertaining, I mean, lots of other things, for instance, computer science, database management, business intelligence, software and hardware platforms pertaining to basically those 3 areas. And as well as providing a key understanding of how analytics are applied to critical tasks facing business decision making, as well as some of what we call the soft skill, i.e. the communication and data project management. Some of the program's strengths and uniqueness. It's a full-time program, and it runs from August to August. It's a cohort program, meaning all the students in a program would take the same classes in the same sequence throughout those 12 months. And it's the first interdisciplinary master program that BGSU has created, and I believe this may still be the only interdisciplinary master program here on campus. The focus really on hands-on experience. Basically the idea is to learn how, and we don't really touch on any theoretical underpinning of many of the things we talked about in all the courses in the program. One of the unique features of the program is that we have a analytics project course. It's a 3-credit-hour course throughout the entire 12 months, so you would take 1 credit hour in analytics projects per term. So 4 spring and summer. That's 1 credit hour each. And the idea of this course is to have students work on real projects, and these are projects that the faculty advisor brings into the course, and many of these projects actually stem from working with external companies on different analytics projects. But the idea is to have students work on these projects in such a way that they could actually integrate or sort of apply what they learn in that specific semester into the project. So for instance, I'm advising the analytics project this particular semester. So we have been working on a data set that really utilizes a number of courses, techniques that the students learn in a number of courses, such as database management and regression analysis. The next semester, we will continue to work on a couple other data sets that would then utilize what the students are going to be learning in the spring semester. For instance, they're going to be taking the course in time series analysis as well as Hadoop. So the project, the 1 credit hour project course, would then focus on utilizing techniques or methodologies the students learn in those courses. Again, I talked earlier about so these sort of if you look at the courses, we have really the core courses. These are more of a technical courses pertaining to those areas. But we will also have sort of soft skills in management and leadership. The university also runs a center for business analytics. So there's going to be some collaborations between the program, particularly the students, and the center. The center is actually run out of the College of Business, and I actually runs the department. I'm the chair of the Department of Applied Statistics and Operations Research that actually runs the center. Right. Some of the university also provides career services, and as you can see from the slide, these are just basically some of the companies that have come to campus for recruiting purpose. And we have placed, not for this program because this is the first cohort, but the university has analytics program at the undergraduate level. So we have placed our undergraduates in some of these companies. Again, the career services will provide job search and resume writing, and even they even do mock interview where you get to be taped, and they could they'll look at, and you and someone from the career services would then look at the interview and kind of trying to look at whether there's anything you can improve when you're in the face-to-face interview situation. Right. The next slide is just basically some of the faculty that teach courses in the program. Now, I should point out though, it's actually a joint program with 4 participating departments from 2 different colleges. So in the College of Business, we have the Department of Applied Statistics and Operations Research, and the Department of Accounting and Management, MIS, Management of Information Systems. So these are 2 departments from the colleges, from the College of Business, and from the College of Arts and Science, we have the Department of Computer Science, as well as the Department of Mathematics and Statistics. So these are basically 4 departments, all contributing to some of the, some of each department would staff a number of courses in the program.
Great. Dr. Ye, if I could.
So here's just basically, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say. I was just going to say, if once you're done with the faculty, I do want to go back to that previous slide. But if you have another comment on the faculty there, go ahead.
Okay, I'm done with the faculty. So if you want to go back to the previous.
I want to go back because Thank you. I didn't want to overlook the fact that many of our prospective Indian students bring up the question of whether or not this is a STEM certified program, and it is STEM certified. And so what that means is that you have extended OPT opportunities. So while that's not specifically through our career services office, I think it is critical to mention because the goal of the program, as Dr. Ye has already said, this is a program that is really applied. It's a program where we want you to be able to take what you're learning in the classroom and apply it in very real ways in a hands-on type of experience. And OPT, optional practical training, after you're done with the program, this extends your entire stay up to 29 months. And so we believe that it's very important that if you're here in the U.S. studying, that you take advantage of that opportunity, and career services on campus can help you to connect to companies in the region and throughout the country who will be looking for students, graduates of this type of program, and be able to help you identify those and find those OPT opportunities. And of course, and I'm sure Dr. Murthy will mention this as well, that they also have industry partners here in the U.S. that they work very closely with, and so we'll be helping to connect our students with those partners as well. So, okay, Dr. Ye, if we want to go back then to talk a little bit more about the curriculum, then.
Yeah, just a quick overview of the curriculum. So as I said, it's 12 months from August to August. So basically, you have 3 terms: fall, spring, and summer. And in each of the terms, particularly fall and the spring, you basically have 4 classes plus the 1 credit hour analytics project. So the fall semester, you'll be taking courses in regression analysis, database management, exploratory data analysis, and decision optimization. And in the spring semester, you follow up with time series analysis, business intelligence, data mining, and big data analytics. In big data analytics, the focus is actually on Hadoop. And the summer term, you basically finish up with 2 additional courses: advanced data analytics and project management. And this is also the term where you're going to be wrapping up the analytics projects with the final paper and oral presentation. We also, there are some prerequisites for incoming students, particularly prerequisites on calculus, statistics, and computer programming. Now, you could fulfill those prerequisites either by taking courses at the undergraduate level, or if you could show that you have enough work experience to basically waive those prerequisites. But we'll look at your undergraduate transcript as well as your work experience. However, if you have not met those prerequisites, we do have 2 summer courses. These are courses that get 2 credit hours each. One covers the mathematics and statistics. The other covers the computer science, basic computer program. So these are 2 courses, 2 credit hours each, that are offered prior to the fall semester. So basically, they will be offered in summer semesters. So for instance, if you do have to take these courses, you'll probably have to come earlier than the rest of the students. So basically, you spend maybe up to 3 weeks finish on these 2 courses, then before you start the MSA program. I don't know, Keith, do you want to say anything about the prerequisite?
Yeah, thank you. I did want to add to that, Dr. Ye, that I'm pleased to announce that we are actually now able to offer those courses online. The departments are in the process of developing those courses for online delivery, and so if a student chose to come to the campus early, they could choose to do that. However, especially for those of you who are in India, that we believe that online delivery would be a great option for you so that you could take any prerequisite coursework in the summer. And when Dr. Ye mentions that, it's our summer term actually goes from about mid-May until late June, early July. And so that would be an excellent opportunity for someone who doesn't have the prerequisites. I also did want to mention the fact that for those who choose to go through the INSOFE certificate program, if you don't have the statistics requirement, the coursework that they're offering in their program, that would suffice for the statistics requirement. So they have a very strong component of statistics in their coursework, and so that would be the other option there. So, and with that, again, I want to thank Dr. Ye for going through those early slides for us. And now I would like to turn it over to Dr. Murthy.
Okay. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Or am I still muted? Okay, great. Great. Thank you. So, about INSOFE, we are an institute located in Hyderabad, and we have been offering a certificate program on data science and analytics for the past 3.5 years. We graduated over 200 students so far. And recently, CIO Magazine has rated the certificate program as number 3 in a list of top 11 certifications worldwide. And INSOFE was the only institute outside US to be in that list, and it's ranked between Stanford and Columbia. So INSOFE has been recognized by, the certificate program has been recognized by the top authorities in the world as one of the best in this discipline. Can you move to the next slide, please? Yeah. And the faculty that teach this program have been rated amongst the top 10 most prominent analytics academicians. 2 of them are listed. In fact, we are the only institute in India to have 2 faculty members in that list. Several IIMs, ISB are part of that list, but each one had only 1 faculty member. And typically we are rated in the top 1 or 2 institutes in analytics institutes in India, and amongst classroom programs, past 2-3 years we have been number 1 in India. And you can get more information about all this from our website. Could you move to the next slide, please? Now, I want to bring about what I believe is the biggest differentiator that you learn in this certificate program, which is the PreMasters Program. I will actually walk you through the curriculum at a later point, but I want to highlight on the differentiator. One of the things that we do by design at INSOFE is that every mentor and every scientist spends 50% of the time consulting with companies. Currently, we have companies, our consulting partners. Consulting as in, we actually take up their business problems, solve them, and teach that to the students in the class. Tata, ITC, which are top 2 manufacturing companies in India, Wendy's, which is Ohio-based, very close to Bowling Green, J&J, Novartis, and a very Fortune 500 are world's biggest companies. Inc. 500 are fastest growing companies, and most of our customers are in and around Ohio because of the partnerships that we have with Bowling Green and our offices in Columbus. In INSOFE itself, the size of data scientists grew from 4 to 20 last year, and our target or our expectation is that we will require 30 more data scientists this year and a lot more by the time you graduate. So we constantly work with industries, solve their problems, and we design our certificate to complement BGSU to make you ready for the industry, and many of the students actually get placed by us for our internal requirement itself on our client projects. Just to give you an idea, I said 200 people have been graduated from INSOFE. 2 startups were started from ground up with entire INSOFE students, alumni. The teams published so far around 5 patents This is our students, not the faculty. 5 patents, wrote 2 books, again the students. So this is in combination with the masters with Bowling Green, we believe we create one of the best data science talents in the world, and the opportunities are plenty, as I will talk in the next slide. Could you move to the next slide, please? Yeah, so I want to emphasize here about a very important factor about the location. Many Indians do not realize, and that included me, the potential of this Ohio, Toledo, Columbus region. When I was in India, when I wanted to start a company in US, I thought my best locations would be New York or California or Chicago. Now, because they're metros, Houston. But when I did a objective site analysis, there are some startling things that I realized. Columbus had this vision to become country's big data center by 2020. They have a vision document. Some of the top companies participate with universities there to set up that initiative. There are plenty of Fortune 500 companies, and many of them are our customers in that region of Ohio. Cleveland, Cincinnati, Columbus, and Toledo house some of the biggest companies like GE, Procter & Gamble, Kroger, Nationwide, all of which have a very thriving exciting analytics teams. And then of course there are many small companies that are there. With all this, we actually started our analytics consulting initiative and company in Columbus, and as I said, we have customers for internal requirements and we have placement services that we offer to you. Of course, another major city that is close and that has a lot of opportunities is Detroit, which is world's largest manufacturing hub with Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler being there. So this is a silent sleeping, not sleeping in that way, a relatively less known but an extremely powerful location to study and practice data science. I'm sure many Indian students do not know this, and hence I wanted to emphasize this factor very hard. Could you go to the next slide, please? There is a small lag in my computer, that's why I'm taking a bit longer before I start after the slide transition. Anyway, the pre-masters program, as I mentioned, will be taught by some of the best experts in the world, people who have between them they have around 30 patents and around 50 research papers and experience in of studying in some of the top-notch universities and working for IBM, Microsoft, defense, very large organizations. So we ensure that by the time you go to Bowling Green State, you have a complete confidence built in and technical abilities that you mastered that will allow you to maximize your learning from their rigorous program. And irrespective of your background, we train you from the ground up. So while most of the students are engineering, so they may not require any prerequisite course. You have had already the required statistics and computing. But what we do is take them and teach them in a very applied manner so that you get comfortable and you assimilate much more than what you could from the classrooms in Bowling Green. So that's the goal of pre-masters program. Could you move to the next slide, please? Okay, So as far as the amount of content is concerned, there is another very important focus area of our program that I wanted to mention. Bowling Green has excellent exposure to math, stat, and some exposure to the big data analytics. But in the industry, what we see is there's a large demand for people who actually can work on Hive, Pig, Spark, Scala. There are many big data technologies, and these technologies are growing really fast, and we learn every day from our clients on what is the need of the hour. So in our 200-hour classroom program, the goal is to complement the master's content that you learn. So we focus a lot on big data engineering, where you learn to set up a cluster and run programs on very large data sets, and do lots of lab. So by the time you go to Bowling Green, you will have learned enough statistics to then start doing more of data predictive modeling, but you will have learned a lot of big data engineering that you can directly apply in industry when you go there. So together, the focus on both is data science has three major verticals, as I see: collecting and managing large amounts of data, and then extracting insights from there and visualizing. The master's program will teach you 2 and 3. Extracting patterns and visualizing, and introduces you to 1. The pre-master's program that you learn at INSOFE will teach you that first part extensively and trains you to learn best for second and third parts. So that is the overall program design. And we, as I mentioned, have a very, very active network that provides post-career services. There are dedicated people who studied analytics and who are working with industry on consulting projects that will interact with you on shaping up your career and walk you through the right job process. And the 29-month OPT is great, but if you do your program well, even before completion or within a few months after completion, you should land up in a very, very attractive job. That's the kind of demand that region, this program, and this training can offer you. Mm-hmm. Could you move to the next slide, please? So another point I really want to mention in this slide and the next is the excellent affordability of Bowling Green. This is one of our favorite factors when we considered a partnership. The total cost, the Bowling Green costs are shown here, that you get the total fees $25,000, and in that you get the scholarship, which we will talk about in a moment in the next slide. Could you go to the next slide? I will talk about the total numbers there. So INSOFE students who do well get a 30% reduction in tuition. Including INSOFE certification costs also, your total cost for the program will be around $24,000. And then because Ohio, Toledo is a very affordable place to live, you can complete your entire living of that 1 year in less than $10,000 or less than $8,000. And if you put together, the total cost for you comes to around 20 lakhs. This is INSOFE certification, Bowling Green Masters, and the career services and living expenses for a year in US. All this comes to around 20 lakhs. This, what we found, is actually less than some of the B school fees. Indian business schools have slightly higher fee than this. So you get a certificate, a master's, you live in a different culture in US, get exposed to all this, and all that costs you less than 20 lakh rupees. So that's one of the most attractive aspects here. Excellence at a low cost is sort of a very rare combination. So I really urge you to think about it seriously. And INSOFE has an MOU with HDFC's Credila. So most students with decent financial background should become eligible for the education loans. Those of you who are interested in the loans, please contact INSOFE. We'll put you in touch with Credila, of course, which is the largest education loan grantor in India. So you must have heard of the brand, and we have an MOU with them. We help you process that. So financially, I do not think you can find a more quality and more affordable program anywhere in the US. And I'm saying it after interacting with probably 50 to 60 universities. So please give a very serious consideration to that. Could you go to the next slide, please? So, Krit, do you want to do this, or do you want me to do this?
Sure. Yeah, I can walk through this, Dr. Murthy. Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right. So now we'll come back to the application process for Bowling Green State University. And for those of you who choose to move forward, our application deadline for international applicants is March 1st. I know that the INSOFE deadline for their certificate, I believe their certificate, and Dr. Murthy, I'll bring you back on in just a minute. I believe that that's a February start. And so really the timing works out very nicely, but you would want to apply to the Bowling Green program by March 1st so that you can complete that process and have time to complete the visa paperwork as well. We recommend the equivalent of a 3-point undergraduate GPA on a 4-point scale. We understand that the scale in India is quite different, but as long as you've completed your undergraduate degree and have the prerequisites, we look very favorably on the academic background that most Indian students bring from their undergraduate institutions. We do require official transcripts from all universities, although we can do an initial review on unofficial transcripts as well, and the same is true for test scores. So we do accept both the GRE or the GMAT, and you can see what we recommend there. These are not necessarily minimum scores, but on the GRE, we would like to see a combined score of 300 or higher, specifically on the analytics side, perhaps a bit higher. And then on the GMAT score, we're looking typically for a combined 550 or better. Those documents go directly to our admissions office, but then as coordinator of the program, the remaining pieces can be sent or emailed directly to me, and that would include a statement of purpose as well as a resume and 3 letters of recommendation. And again, those 3 letters of recommendation can be emailed directly to me by your recommenders. And then we do require the TOEFL or the IELTS test for language. And so the process that we go through here, we don't hold applicants until a specific date. We do review those on a rolling basis. And so once an application is complete, we review that typically very quickly within, say, even 2 to 3 days. And we try to get a response out to you very, very quickly so you know how to plan accordingly and can move forward with your visa paperwork. And with that, I'm going to bring Dr. Murthy back on the line, and we're going to take some questions that perhaps have not been addressed yet. I'm also going to unmute my colleague, Sherry, who has been monitoring some of the questions that have been coming in. One of the things that go ahead.
So I just wanted to add, if you could go to the last slide, and I can do it after you're done, Keith.
Oh, that's fine.
Do you want me to talk now, or you? Okay.
Oh,
so just to add here, the INSOFE PreMasters Program starts on February 16th, and February first week is the timeline when you have to apply. And we typically, for students who need assistance in this process of putting together the application and making the package correct left and right, our counseling teams will help you. And how the process works is the student applies to Bowling Green while joining or before joining INSOFE itself, and provided they meet all the requirements, they get the admission, and once you complete your program, we submit to the university of successful completion, and then you get your scholarship allocated. So in this entire process, we will walk with you and help you do it right.
That's great. Thank you, Dr. Murthy. I'm glad you brought that up. In speaking to the students in our first cohort that came through INSOFE, and I did want to mention we had a couple who were planning to join us this morning, and unfortunately, this is our finals week, so they are taking their final exams literally as we speak. And so they didn't feel that they could afford the time because, as you have probably already gathered, the program is very rigorous, and especially during finals week, they had quite a bit of preparation that they needed to do. So, but they would all definitely say that the experience that they had through INSOFE and INSOFE's assistance in helping them to apply to our program was really invaluable. I also want to mention that while I put the March 1st application deadline on the slide, we would certainly encourage you to apply prior to that. That would be the absolute deadline that we would typically look for an international applicant. But because of the partnership and because of the start date for INSOFE, we would definitely encourage applicants to start thinking about that now. We've already started reviewing applications for the fall term. And so the sooner you get those in, the better, and we can walk with you through that process as well. The other thing that I wanted to mention with regard to our current students who came through in the INSOFE program, we met last week. We brought in Mike Hoskins, which is a name that most of you probably would not recognize, but I might encourage you to look him up online. Mike Hoskins is an analytics I guess I would refer to him as an analytics giant here in the United States. He is a graduate of Bowling Green State University. He is a big businessman. He owns several businesses. And we had a professional development day last Friday where he came to campus. He lives in Austin, Texas, and he came to share his vision for the future of analytics. And so our MSA students had a chance to meet with him and have lunch with him. And that, I think, is one of the real highlights that as I ask our INSOFE students here, what do you really feel are the benefits? What are some of the strengths? Why did you choose Bowling Green? And what do you feel now are some of the strengths? And I know that Dr. Murthy already mentioned the affordability, and I know that they would agree with that piece. But they also were very, very had very strong opinions of the fact that this is a multidisciplinary program, that we do pull in the different academic departments, as Dr. Ye mentioned. And they also mentioned the strength of combining what they're studying in the classroom with what they are learning in a practical, hands-on way in those projects that Dr. Ye mentioned, and also the fact that we have this professional development series. So on a regular basis, maybe on a monthly basis, we're bringing in experts from the field to come in and share their expert opinions, to talk about preparation for a career in analytics. And we feel that that's very strong, that we give our students the opportunity to really investigate the field, learn about the field, and then be prepared to go out into that field when they graduate. Well, with that, I'm going to go back to this last slide then. And I'm going to unmute Sherry. And Sherry, I know that you've been receiving some questions. And for those of you who have maybe not submitted questions yet, I would encourage you to go ahead and do so at this time. Just type those in, and Sherry will be able to share some of those questions with us at this time. So, Sherry?
Yes, Keith, thank you very much. We do have some questions out here. The first one pertains to employment possibilities for the future. And we have a student who has a very extensive background in the healthcare field, being in pharmacy now, doing clinical trials, and has some background in programming. and they're wanting to know, would that kind of background make him an eligible candidate for this course to be a data analytics guy in the healthcare industry, or is this mainly for somebody who with a computer science background?
You know,
So can I take this question?
absolutely, please.
Yeah, so just want to mention that INSOFE's largest client base is from healthcare. As you may have seen the names Novartis, Johnson & Johnson, and currently we are working with Inmar on patient adherence. We work with CoverMyMeds, a Ohio company, on healthcare insurance. Novartis on clinical trial fraud detection. We didn't plan it. It just happened that healthcare and manufacturing had so many opportunities to in analytics and a variety of problems. We work with Ohio Medical School system on biokinetics and how analytics can be used to treat or help physiotherapists treat better. We work with pharmaceutical companies on clinical trial fraud, clinical trial optimization. We work with insurance companies on churn and non-adherence and prior authorization. So interestingly, healthcare is becoming one of the biggest consumers of analytics, your background seems particularly appealing, and with that expertise in clinical trial and a background in programming, you should become a very, very attractive candidate in insurance, healthcare, hospitals, pharmaceutical, and pharmacy chains in all these industries. And we currently have at least 15 people working on these areas with the clients, and it's growing. So that's a very, very good domain and background to have.
Great. And if I can add to that, Dr. Murthy, I would also suggest that, that's certainly true of our current student population, that many of our students in the program did not come out of a computer science or engineering background. Some came out of business, some came out of healthcare. And really, that's part of the reason that we make the coursework available in the summertime online, that for someone who perhaps doesn't have all the prerequisite coursework, they can do that coursework very quickly, very easily in the summertime prior to starting the program, and then come right into the program and prepare themselves in big data analytics. So that shouldn't be a concern at all. Sherry, next question.
Okay, Keith, I think this one would be answered best by you.
Okay.
With the March 1st application deadline, what would be a good deadline for the remainder of the packet to arrive to VG for efficient processing?
Well, I mean, I would certainly encourage. Yeah, I would certainly encourage, because the thing that probably takes the longest is for the official paperwork, such as your college transcripts or university transcripts, to arrive here in the United States. I would suggest certainly that when I mention March 1st, I would really look at March 1st as a completed deadline. I would certainly encourage somebody who's looking to apply sooner than that, but use March 1st as a deadline to have all of your paperwork in. We can certainly go past that, but I think in order to have sufficient time to get the visa paperwork completed, I would really try to have everything in by March 1st.
And could you tell us how many applicants or applications you received last year, and out of those applications, how many were selected to the program? Do you have those?
I don't know that I have those handy. Last year, again, was our first year for the program. I believe that we had something in the neighborhood of 23 to 25 applicants. If I were to guess off the top of my head, probably 15 or 16 of those were admitted, and then 10 of those started in the program. But I can also say at this point that for this coming year, now that the program is well underway and our INSOFE partnership is so strong, this is our second webinar, just to give you a sense. And between the two webinars, we had something in the neighborhood of 265 prospective students register for these webinars alone, and I already have nearly 100 prospects that are not through INSOFE and not necessarily in India. And so we expect that we will have many, many more applicants for this coming fall. And so the class, our hope is to grow the class to maybe something in the mid-20s for this year, and then potentially double the cohort each year for the foreseeable future. And Dr. Murthy, I don't know, maybe you can speak to some of your numbers as well. What kind of growth are you seeing on your end?
We have now 300 people who are our prospects and who have asked for the program, and so that echoes this is from India to INSOFE to Bowling Green, through INSOFE to Bowling Green, we have 300 prospects. So I believe there'll be a substantial increase from last year, as mentioned. But having said that, there are a couple of points I do want to mention. The acceptance ratios in U.S. universities are much better than some of the Indian universities because of the numbers. In India, we are used to 1%, 2% kind of acceptance. As Keith mentioned, out of these 150 applicants, mid-20s is the selection. So we are looking at 1:5, 1:6. Another very interesting thing, it didn't have anything to do with either INSOFE or Bowling Green explicitly, but every one of the 9 students or 8 students that were sent to Bowling Green from INSOFE last year got their visas without, in the first attempt without any problems. As I said, this is a visa office decision, but because of the reputation of the program, because of the transparency, everything, the visa rejection was 0 last year, and we hope that most people who secure the admission with the scholarship should have the same track record this year also.
Very good. And again, I just want to use that opportunity, Dr. Murthy, to really pass along, kudos to you and your team. I really think that as I've spoken to the INSOFE students here on our campus now, I think that the assistance that they received from your team, from your faculty and staff, was really exemplary, and it really prepared them well, not only academically, but really kind of helped them through that pipeline. And so that partnership, if anybody's thinking about, going this direction, I can't really speak highly enough about what INSOFE has brought to the table and really prepared their students well in a multitude of ways. So,
thanks, Kit. Yeah.
You're welcome. Sherry.
Okay, we have another student that is interested in placements and the companies that we possibly do internships with, and if we offer any profiles of those companies. Does this program offer internship opportunities?
Sure. Dr. Ye, I'm going to pass this over to you because this is kind of currently in discussions about the possibility of doing some internships. So I'll pass it over to you.
Right. So I guess a couple points. Number one, it's a full-time 12-month program. So basically, you're going to be taking really 4 classes plus the 1 credit hour. So it makes it the design of the cohort and 12-month program makes it difficult to have some type of internship position, internship experience, because by internship most of the time you do have to spend some time in the company. However, we're in the process of discussing with a particular company to maybe set up some type of intern position whereby the students could still work I guess a number of hours per week on the internship and not interfere with their class schedule. And one way we might be able to do that is to basically instead of that 1 credit hour analytics projects, that may be the way we can work through with some of the companies to set up some type of interns. So that's something that we are looking into. But as I say earlier, the design of the classes and the cohort does make it slightly harder to have some type of interns.
Well, and I want to add to that, Dr. Ye, because I know that one of the benefits I think that our current students have found is that even without having an internship, our goal is to use those project hours to connect with big business here in our region of the United States and actually bring real-world data and real-world analytics problems into those projects so that our students still get the hands-on experience. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've spoken to potential employers. I guess my feeling is that, particularly in analytics, I can speak for other fields. My feeling is that yes, it may be beneficial if you have internship experience. However, even if you don't have one, it's really more about what you have done in the program. Like, for instance, if you can demonstrate, through this analytics projects, if you can demonstrate we have worked on such and such project, and these are the things that we have worked on for these projects, I think those things would be very attractive to employers.
Great. Okay. Let me unmute. I think Dr. Murthy maybe has something to add to this. Dr. Murthy.
Yeah. I just want to add here, Keith and that if you remember, the PreMasters program has 100 hours of class and 100 hours of lab. Essentially, the entire lab is a real-world project which you do. So it is not an imaginary lab work that you do. We take up, all the scientists that work with you are working on real-world problems. We take permissions from our clients to take a subset of data, mask it, and have you solve the problem. So you get. That's why we are so confident that by the time you go to the master's program, you will be in a position where you assimilate a lot more from the classes. So you get a real-world project experience while you are doing your pre-master's program. With that, what our additions that Keith and Dr. Arthur A. mentioned about the program, you will get them during the master's there.
Great, thank you. We only have a few minutes remaining, but Sherry, do you still have a couple questions for us?
Yeah, I do, actually. There was a question about preference to students for an INSOFE program. So does BGSU offer that to somebody who goes through this program versus somebody who just applies directly as an international student?
I wouldn't necessarily say that there's preference as far as the admissions process. We look at everybody equally in that process. On the other hand, I would certainly say that a student who has gone through the INSOFE program, they already bring what we believe is a high level of expertise with them, especially with that completed certificate in hand. We value that, and we value that partnership. And certainly we would encourage anyone. We don't typically offer tuition scholarships for this program because it's such a short program. It's already very affordable. We know that the job placement is going to be very high at the conclusion of the program. So really the only way that students can pursue a discount in tuition or a tuition scholarship is through this partnership. So we really do highly recommend that an Indian student considering Bowling Green's program strongly consider the INSOFE program first and use that as the stepping stone into our program.
Okay, and the last one I have for you is just kind of an overview of how you review applications. For example, if somebody is slightly down in the GRE, would you request that they retake that, or how do you look at your applicants during the review process?
Sure. That's a great question. Yes, we look at the whole student. So every document that they send, we look at very seriously at the letters of recommendation, at the resume, at the statement of purpose, at the GRE or the GMAT scores. There have been applicants who were down on the GRE, maybe lower than what we would have recommended, and I have maybe encouraged them to retake it. but we're not talking a point or two. If we're recommending a 300 and somebody says, well, maybe I have a 297, but they have significant work experience, their letters of recommendation are very strong, we'll certainly, those things balance out. However, if somebody comes back and they're, maybe at a 290 or something lower than that, perhaps at that point I would certainly, take another look at that and say, well, you probably need to do a little bit more preparation, and perhaps consider retaking it at that point. So, but we really do look at every document that the applicant sends us, and really look at the whole package when they apply.
Okay, and then the last question I have for today is, do we have any links or blogs that we could recommend students look at to learn more about the background of analytics?
Dr. Murthy, maybe I'll hand that over to you. Do you have some suggestions for that?
So the entire PreMasters program is designed to give you that background and the needed preparation. So to the PreMasters program, if you are an engineer and you are not averse of mathematics and are conversant with your 10th grade matrix additions, multiplications, coordinate geometry, distances, measurement, etc., if you are comfortable, you should be able to start picking up, because we start from the very basics of statistics, take it all the way, give enough intro to programming, teach big data. So not much is needed, but if you want to refresh them, something like a Khan Academy or something like that should be good enough. So the PreMasters program will prepare you for everything. Fantastic. That you will see in the grad class.
Great. And did you have any suggestions, or in fact, I'll bring Dr. Ye back on here as well. I think a piece of that last question also had to do with, are there any resources online that you both perhaps frequent, where a prospective student could get additional information on big data analytics, or where they might be able to connect with, what would you do with something in this field? Mm-hmm. What are the career prospects? Would either of you like to comment on that as we close?
There are some excellent TED Talks, and all the attendees, I don't remember the URL. Yesterday I went through one, and where he was showing some of the greatest things that machine learning and deep learning is doing, and data science is doing. So we will share it by email. I don't at this point recall, but TED has some fantastic talks about data science and analytics, big data analytics, which is a good resource for you to get started. That's where I get all the latest.
Great. Dr. Ye, any insights on that? Any place online that you would recommend that our prospective students visit?
Well, I mean, we live in the Google era, right? So, I mean, if you just type big data analytics into Google search engine, you get a lot of information, and some of these actually will take you to really, really excellent articles. There are a number of articles that came out of Harvard Business Review a couple years ago talking about what big data analytics is and the future for big data analytics. I mean, my last comment really, I have been a statistician for over 20 years, and from talking to really corporations and business owners this last couple years, my feeling is that the needs for big data analytics would only increase, and by that I really mean that more and more corporations are now beginning to realize they really need to do something with respect to big data analytics, because most of them actually are sitting on just basically tons of information that their companies collect, whether consciously or unconsciously. Most of the companies simply have a lot of data, and these are like I should say, the way I view big data analytics is that data are like unfounded treasures scattered out there. Like, you need someone who knows how to mine these treasures. So that's where the analytics come in. So companies now are beginning to realize they really need to do something to get ahead of their competitors. And this is not something they can easily move someone from inside the companies. Like if someone is doing IT, it's not like they can just go to the IT people. Hey, you're gonna be doing analytics. That's not gonna happen, because without the analytic skills, you simply cannot do analytics. So I think the future is just looking great.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Ye. And I would concur with that, and certainly say that when we brought, Mike Hoskins to our campus last Friday, he would certainly agree with that analytics is certainly going to grow in leaps and bounds. And we anticipate that the students who go through the INSOFE Bowling Green collaborative program, I think that they will see significant opportunities for their careers and work in big data analytics. Well, with that, I just want to remind you that you can see our contact information there on your screen, and as well as the email addresses are there. We thank you so much for your interest in our programs and your time today. And as questions come up, please don't hesitate to contact us. We look forward